video is definitely not going to be out by today. There's only 30 minutes left of today. But I just read the final chapter I'm going to be reading for today. Let's watch how many times I read today. Of Darth Plagueis today. I've just read it. I think I said I was going to, but no, I've just read it. So, chapter 3. It was chapter 3. That means I got through 3 chapters on the prologue today. Who am I? I don't usually go through that much. Before we get into it though, this is the very quick illustration I did for chapter 2. I had the idea in mind, didn't quite turn out as I was expecting, but got the general idea off, I think. So, my thoughts on chapter 3. I think the best place to start is with the Whoopi crew, and I think James Luceno who is the author of the book, does a good job on making you really like these characters. You know, they are playful with each other, they joke about with one another, you get the sense that they are all really good friends, and that's, you know, they enjoy working with each other. And especially at the start of that chapter, you really just get the sense of, oh, these are just a bunch of old buddies, you know, and it's a good way to quickly make you feel attached to these characters and like them. But as the chapter goes on, we see them become a bit more thinking in the business, if that makes sense. As it goes on, we see them discussing as a group what they think they should do with Darth Plagueis, who is stowing away. And you see how some are a bit more, I guess, aggressive than others. Some are suggesting to just jettison him. Makar, I'm pretty sure, was the one who suggested that to begin with. You got another one who is suggesting to hold him ransom to Munalist and the Munes, or other Muns, or Munalist. I go between saying Mune and Mun, but to me it's just Munalist. Anyway, off topic. Then you got others saying that they should just take him straight to I4 so he can get over to Munalist, and eventually they come to a conclusion. And this is really where I guess we get to see Darth Plagueis' negotiating skills as a Mun. As we know, the Munes are just said I switched between the two. But as we know, the Munes, they're known for being they're known for, of course, their for working in the banking clans and stuff, and as lawyers, etc. And so they're known for their abilities of negotiation, and we get to see that with Plagueis, how he's very good at keeping his privacy and anonymity, whatever, you know what I mean, keeping anonymous, and how he's very wary to reveal too much, but he reveals enough and enough reasonable, I guess, information to the Whoopi crew. And he makes his deal very clear that he wants passage to Munalist or I4 at the very least, and is willing to pay for any of the expenses that he has cost them. And I think the great thing about these early chapters is that we're getting to see all these sides of Plagueis. Early on we saw how he would, I guess with Tenebris, you know, Tenebris was taking that lead, so to speak. He would jump in and correct him or slow Tenebris down to really assess the situation. And now we are getting to see Plagueis be the one who's having to lead that situation, and how he manages it. He's better with these negotiations, I guess. And we really do get to see that with Plagueis, and it's interesting to see how he's doing that. How guess almost effective it is. He does propose quite a tough deal, especially for the Whoopi-Gong crew, because they're really struggling with expenses and stuff, and it's definitely a really tempting offer for them, at least for Captain Elena. She was still conflicted, but I think you kind of get the sense, oh, maybe she's leaning to it, but she's still taking responsibility as a captain to not go to that, and she's still taking the responsibility of asking her crew and coming to a decision as a group. And then as we get towards the end of the chapter, we then get to see how Plagueis is kind of warning Elena not to try and kill him, and just because he doesn't think that the deal they've come to isn't allowable. And he, of course, with good reason in Plagueis' view, he needs to be able to get to Munilist within a week. So he's just spent quite a few days running, so he barely has any time left. But he's not permitting them to take him back to Baldemnik if he's found out to be a criminal, which he probably wouldn't have, but it's still, he can't permit them. I guess he can't permit delay. And then he starts to echo back into Tenebrous' words in his mind. Let me see if I can find the words actually. Let me get to it real quick. Here it is. To dwell in the Force, normal life. To we who dwell in the Force, normal life is little more than pretense. Our only actions of significance are those we undertake in service to the dark side. Those were Tenebrous' words, and you then get to see into Plagueis' thoughts of, oh, how could I have trusted this immature group who were, I guess, very conflicting with each other. Despite them trying to come to reasonable actions, they are quite conflicting. And it's, oh, how could I have trusted them in Plagueis' mind? And again, you really get to see that more negotiable side, yet he's still, I guess, holding on a bit. He's still holding on a bit. And he's still telling Elena, please don't do this. So I do think, from what I'm gathering with Plagueis so far, at least in this chapter, he definitely appears very. He's still trying to free. I guess he's still trying to free himself from Tenebrous. We know that's from chapter 1 and 2. But the thing is, he's still somewhat tied to the old ways, I guess. And I wonder if that's why he's still begging Ellen not to do so and just, getting straight into the combat. Because he knows it's going to be imminent. He knows it's going to happen, but he's still trying to negotiate. So I am wondering, is that part of his character? Is that going to be part of his character? Is it going to be something relating to him still staying tied to the old ways, or trying to move forwards from the old ways? Despite having Tenebrous' words in his mind, he's still trying to push his negotiation his skills of negotiation. I'm finding it interesting, and I think it's an interesting choice as to he's deciding to continue negotiation despite knowing, and even taking note of Ellen's blaster being primed. He's still trying to negotiate and telling her, please don't do this. And he's still trying to keep that facade of this friendly mule, I guess, who just wants passage to Munilist. I'm still trying. If you have an idea as to what Tenebrous was probably trying to say there, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'll have to go read. I have to say it through a couple more times in my head and look through the definitions of the words, but a few more times. But I am still trying to grasp that. So maybe once I have grasped it, I'll click onto it. But yeah, I think this is definitely interesting. The next chapter is called "The Means of Death," and let's be honest, it's all, if you've gotten to the end of that chapter, it's clear that the Whoopi Gong crew is going to die, and I know they do because it happened last time when I read the book. Oh, speaking of when I read the book last time, I want to make a correction. I did not read up to chapter 7, I read up to chapter 6, and I tried to go through chapter 7 but couldn't get further than halfway, so I want to make that clear. I did not get to chapter 7, I got to chapter 6. But yeah, I forgot just how, I guess, fun the Whoopi Gong crew were in those early chapters, and just how serious they got a little bit later on. This is why I think it's a good thing that I've gone and back through the chapters, because it's okay. I'm understanding these bits that I didn't understand before, or picking up on stuff I didn't pick up on stuff before, or just refreshing my mind in general. And it's just really interesting and a load of fun, really, to go through it again. But yeah, if you know what Tenebrous was trying to say, with that life is just a pretense, and that's the only actions of significance are those undertaken in the dark side, I would love to know what Tenebrous is properly trying to say there. Some of it's probably obvious, but I'm still trying to figure it out in my mind. So comment below if you figured it out, but in simple terms, please. But yeah, I think this was definitely a fun chapter at the beginning, and it did actually get me smiling and laughing a bit. And a little bit later on, you're really getting interested. I'm getting quite invested in Plagueis at the moment, and that's good, because I really want to finish the book. I really struggle with books over 10 chapters and 120 pages, but I want to finish Plagueis, and this is why I do these videos and I'm doing the artworks. It's because I want to try and use them to get more motivated into completing the book. So yeah. So that should be it for now. I think at the moment, on the topic of artwork, I think I'm leaning more towards doing the Whoopi Gong, just drawing up the Whoopi Gong for this chapter, but we'll see. So yeah. I guess if you've read through the book, comment below what your thoughts were on it. About this chapter, really. I don't want spoilers for later on. I know a bit of what happens later on, but please, I don't want spoilers, even for the chapters I have read. For the future chapters I've read, I mean, which are chapters 5 and 6. But yeah, I'll be interested to know. I'll be interested. I just personally want to try and I just want to know what Tenebrous was trying to say. That's what's taken my interest. I want to know what he was trying to say. But yeah. Anyway, I'll be really looking forward to reading the next chapters. If I read 4 chapters a day, I'm going to be done with the book in no time. Only a handful of days, but yeah, I'm really getting into Plagueis at the moment. At the moment, it's like I just don't want to do really anything else except read it at the moment. So you may start getting these videos where they are, I guess, grouped together, so to speak. But yeah. Thank you all for watching. Next Darth Plagueis video will be covering chapter 5, maybe a few other chapters if I read that many. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.